Hey, Just Keep Living family, it's Marva Hanks here. I am so excited to have one of my favorite worshipers. He just seems to move me to tears whenever I get to be in his presence, when he's on call, when it's his assignment to serve on the Sunday or whenever. So I'm glad that he could work it out in his schedule to be with us today. And I want to welcome Paulston Hill. Thanks for coming, Paulston.
Glad to be here, Mark.
Yeah,
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm so glad. Tell me a little bit about how you started in your music journey with worshiping.
I've been singing in church all my life. So I started off, I want to say at a young age, maybe 6 or 7. It was my first time I ever got a chance to direct in a choir or direct a choir.
At 6 or 7, you was directing a choir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So at home, you were singing a lot?
Yes. So my background is my grandfather was a pastor. So growing up, that's what we did. Church, and church. So yeah, that's all I do. That was in my DNA.
But so for the unchurched that I like to listen in, what does that mean? If you're doing church, what does that mean?
It means I'm going Monday, I'm at school, then we'll go to church. Tuesday, I'm at school, we'll go to church. So pretty much every day is a church-based theme or something around that order where we're going to church every day.
Right.
So, yeah.
And so all of your circle of influence, that's all they knew. It was a culture of just going to church all the time.
Yes, ma'am.
I get. Yeah. So for those that aren't, that's what similar experience. So it's always fascinating to me when people don't have that, but I want to be mindful that that ain't the way everybody was brought up and raised. When did you have an appreciation for like that? Were there kids at school that had different experiences than you?
Well, I was one that I knew about Christ and I knew the Christian way, but I wanted to virtue off. So I had friends, me wanting to be, I guess they call it worldly, or where, you want to step out in the world a little bit. So especially being a PK. So, we have so much pressure on us to where it's like, okay, you're going to do this, or I'm going to be a particular type person to where it's, okay, I'm spot clean on this side, but on the inside, I'm just in shambles. So I ventured off and went down the wrong path a couple of times. And I had friends along the way to tell me like, hey, man, you're a pastor's grandkid. You know what to do. And then I also had friends was like, hey, you're a pastor's kid. You shouldn't be doing this. And then I wanted to defy them. So I ventured off on the side. But in that, I didn't know that I was helping some people that were unsaved become saved because I was hanging with them and they saw my way wasn't pretty much their way and they wanted to find out what was I doing.
They're like, what you doing here? You don't belong here. What you doing?
Yeah.
So when you talk about being a pastor's grandkid, same. So the girls couldn't should not have been wearing pants to school. And I remember like my cousins that I would visit, my parents were a little bit more free and liberal, I would say. So that I didn't have the same restraints. Or let me say, this is what would happen. So the restrictions were you couldn't have earrings, couldn't wear makeup. Was that similar to the way y'all grew up? Were you not that confined?
They were confined to a certain extent. They didn't frown upon it if you had it, but it wasn't pretty much what they wanted, but they didn't turn you away. So it was pretty much long skirts, stockings type of church. You could wear makeup, but stockings was a must.
Okay.
Long skirts was a must. So, yeah.
Okay. So you got it. And because it always seemed unfair to me that the guys had very little restrictions.
Yeah.
It seemed because you have 4 sisters or 3 sisters.
3 sisters.
But, okay. Good. So when on your journey, you're this musical phenom, if you're doing choir director at 6 and 7, were you directing the youth or were you doing like grown folk choir?
It actually started out at my elementary school.
Okay.
So we put together I think it was a talent show one day, and they wanted all the kids to combine at my school and my grade to do a choir. So they chose me to be the choir director, and that was my first time ever directing.
Oh, what school was that?
Charles Rice Elementary in South Dallas.
Okay.
Yes. So, yeah, we were there, and they were like, Paulston will be good for this. And these were kids that nominated me, not the teachers.
Oh, your peer group.
Yeah, so the teacher was...
What were you doing on the playground?
Probably jumping on the jungle gym or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, probably singing around on the jungle gym.
Really?
So they said, hey, your kids nominated you, your class nominated you to be the choir director. Are you okay with that? And I never thought back about it. I just went right along and did it. So.
Do you remember the song?
I do.
Do you?
Yes, it was Because I Got Faith by Kurt Franklin and God's Property.
What?
Yeah.
Come on now. Y'all was getting allowed to sing some Kirk Franklin up in the church then.
We were.
How sweet is that?
Yes.
How sweet is that? So then you got the bug. So someone spoke to you like, now we know you can do this.
Yes.
And so even though you might have veered off the path a little bit, was worship music still in you, or did you mix?
Yes, it
What
was.
that?
It was. It was because I was, like I said, spotless on the outside. So I put on a persona of, okay, this is what I am. I'm in church, but on the inside, I was just broken, heartbroken, and just in shambles. So, I had to play the role of a PGK, preacher's grandkid, to where it was like, okay, oh, they're fine. Their family has it all together. When on the inside, it was just, so that's what I had to do.
Okay. Yeah. Performing. So when did you get free from that?
I really want to say not until I left and went to college, because I've always, like I said, had a relationship with God, but I felt like, did I know God personally? Did I walk with him personally?
Right.
No.
What did that mean? So what does that mean, walking with God personally? So now you figured out it's not church attendance because you was going enough.
So that means having a personal relationship with him to where you're making him your first choice. You wake up in the morning, you're thinking about him. It's nothing else, just him. And that's why I did actually my album about audience of one. Nothing else but God. He's my audience of one. That's who I wake up and that's who I adore. That's who I set my affections in my heart on. So, yeah.
Okay. Was this your first album, or have you played around with making an album and now it's just all come together?
Well, I helped out a little bit on the R&B world. I used to produce for a couple of people, and I actually helped my little sister out with her album. But I've always wanted to do music on my own, and I've always been in the shadows because, like I said, I would direct a choir. I've never got the courage to jump out until I went to college, and they put me out full frontal. And
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Texas Southern University.
Okay.
So
that helped pull you out?
Yeah, because I played the drums at the church too. So I've been playing, like I said, I've been in music all my life, but pushed out of the drum set because they said, okay, we need someone to lead the song.
Do it.
And yeah, I said, I'll do it. So we got another drummer, and I started singing, and that just became repetition.
Right.
So yeah, it was second nature. And I was like, I enjoy this, and then somebody said, not only that you enjoy it, I feel like you're called to do it. And I didn't know at the time what that meant. So I kept doing it, and I kept seeing people being moved by me, and I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm like, well, that's not me. Let me pray about it. So God told me, hey, if you do this, you know how many souls you can save and how many, people you can touch. So
the anointing is obvious. So if you ever, as somebody on the receiving end of it, the anointing of whatever God has gifted you is obvious. So I don't know if you in shambles on the inside, the anointing, the gift was still operating in you. So how did you reconcile, or did anyone use that phrase that, Paulston, you're anointed to this? You used the phrase, you're called to it. What does that mean? For a person, like, I'm always aware of wanting to talk to the unchurched. So, like, let's break.
So, call or anointed, I would say, means, for instance, there are some people that can just flat sing, like they're good, but they're self-absorbed. Now, call is a person that just flows under God's anointing or his push or his move. Whatever God says do, they do. And I felt like, okay, that was my calling, because I've also prayed about it. And like I said, I even wanted to do R&B myself.
Okay.
But that wasn't my calling. So I had to wake up and realize, like, okay.
Did you attempt to do the R&B, and then it wasn't?
I did a little bit in college, just a little bit, but it.
What was your go-to song?
Stuff I wrote.
You're like, I'm gonna produce my own.
I did.
I'm gonna write my own stuff. Okay. Yeah. And then God didn't breathe on that to make it grow.
So I would do a lot of Silk, a lot of just old school R&B. Well, 90s R&B, not old school, but 90s R&B. Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
90s R&B, like who?
Silk, Brian McKnight. Yeah, a little in that area.
Okay.
A little bit of Genuine, Tyrese, little of those raspy singers. So,
raspy.
Yeah.
Is that who's on your playlist now? Who's on your playlist? Boom. If I was to take the phone and I was just listening to not my own stuff.
Now, I would have to say pretty much gospel.
Okay.
like Todd Dulaney or Todd Galbraith. Still listen to Kurt Franklin. So
okay.
Kurt Franklin.
Yeah, he's always good.
Just who else? Who else that I'm a pretty big. Of course, Maverick City.
Okay.
Chandler Moore, that's like phenomenal. So
Okay.
yeah, I listen to people like those,
Okay.
that genre. Yeah.
Okay. You've done the album. What's your favorite go-to we must listen to on the Audience of One? What is your signature?
I would have to say Audience of One.
That one?
Yeah,
Okay.
Audience of One. And that had to grow on me. That was my least favorite song but like I know God helped me write it, but I was like, I'm not sold on it. I know it's my testimony because it is my testimony, but I wasn't sold on that particular song. I was like, okay, we have a lot more songs because I have another song that's Rain. I love that Rain song, but it's not my testimony. Audience of One is like through and through what I'm about. So I would have to say Audience of One.
Can you give us a little sample of the Audience of One, or just give us the words?
Yeah, well, it starts off, you were there when I didn't know I needed you, looking for someone to turn to. I thought I had friends, but then I made my mistakes. And the friends I had, they all turned away. So just crowd I entertained was just for the fame. But now that I know the audience I needed was just one. So it's just about moving all these things aside and making him the center of my life, just one audience member that I need, the only person that matters.
Wow.
So yeah.
Is that what fuels you? Because I have friends that are musicians, also worshipers. Like, this is the weeks that we're doing. Where are my worshipers at? And so thank you for coming. But knowing that the chaos that comes, so you're dealing with human beings to get into worship. Give us, what does that look like? Trying to get that organized and coordinated.
So, that's something, to be quite honest with you, I haven't mastered yet. I try to, navigate around it. And I say that because certain days I feel like, okay, I'm more patient than other days. And it's not that I'm a lash out, but it's like, okay, my time is ticking when it comes to the patient area. But I mean, it's all about, grace, because God gives us grace daily. And it's about just, okay, this is what this is what you're supposed to do. You're a leader, so now you have to, move the people that you're leading in line, so we can all be on the same page and the same collective when it comes to worship. So it's not about us, it's about God, and it's about Him getting the glory of it all. So if we're not on the same page, there's no way that God can get the glory out of chaos and confusion. So that's what I tell my team all the time. Like, we have to be on the same page. We might not agree, but we have to agree to be on the same page. So even if that looks like agree to disagree, we're having those conversations, those hard moments, just a turnabout about it. But okay, I might not agree, but I'm going to push on, I'm going to push through it, and we're going to talk to God about it. And
what does correction look like in the moment? Because like somebody perhaps not listening to you, they're off key. What is that looking like?
Well, my wife will attest to that.
And I'm going to ask you about your bride in a minute. I want to know how y'all met. But what does correction look like in the moment?
So it would be not a harsh, but it'll be like, okay, well, that's not your note. I'll stop everything right then and there in rehearsal. In rehearsal, not now. If we're singing, we'll just have to go with it. Yeah, go with it.
You gonna sing louder than them?
Or I try to sing their note to them so they can see. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
But if we're in rehearsal, it's a stop right then and there. Okay, let me help you. This is your note, and I'll try to correct the pitch. And if they don't get it, we'll move on, but I'll come back to it because we can't spend too much time on it. We have a lot more things to do, so I'll have to circle back to that. But that's how my correction looks.
Yeah.
It's not a harsh like, oh, that's not right. Oh, you're getting on my nerves. You're in my ear. It's horrible. It's not that. But it's okay, that wasn't the note. Let's go back and clear it up.
Right.
So it's one of those things.
So you've gone back and cleared it up, the note. So tell me about how we met the beautiful Mrs. Hill. How did we get to meet our rib?
So she doesn't like this story.
Okay, but she don't have the mic.
Yeah, but I'm out. She was 11 and I was 11.
Wait a minute. This ain't okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's appropriate ages, Jesus. It's been a couple weeks. Woo. Now one more story.
No, she was 11 and I was 11.
Okay.
And she was
appropriateness.
Walking my cousin, which was her pastor at the time, down the aisle for his pastoral anniversary. They had a big shindig for him. And she walked him down the aisle. And she didn't know me at the time, but after the service was over, I asked my cousin, I said,
Who's that?
Who's that girl?
No, you didn't. At 11, that's what's on little boys' minds?
I did. Well,
okay.
I told you I was a little weird. So I asked him, who was she? And he said, that's my daughter. You can't talk to her. You can't. And you know what I told him? I said, I'm going to marry her. And
Look
Lord
at that,
behold,
speaking it into existence.
And we circled back, I want to say around 2012, 2013. We didn't know of each other. I kind of remembered her and she kind of remembered me, but we were talking through drum lessons. And I thought she liked me, but she didn't. She was just really asking for drum lessons. So
how did she let you know that she didn't like you, Paulston? I can't even imagine.
Well, I think she was like, she would call. We would talk maybe once every 2 to 3 months. So I was like, okay, maybe she doesn't like me because, if somebody liked me.
Because you're accustomed to, you're from the light skin. So I do life with the light skinned men that's always used to getting the most attraction. So I understand.
Yeah, no,
she wasn't responding in the way that you were
that I was
norm.
Yes, that was a norm for me. So I'm like, okay, maybe she doesn't like me. But time went on, and I don't know how, but thank God it happened. And we wooed each other, and we started talking more and more, and now we're married. We just celebrated our 6-year anniversary last Sunday. So
Congratulations, pushing through. 6 years. So from 11 to now, because how old are you now?
I am 33. I'll be 34 in August.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, awesome.
Yeah.
So from 11, I done told the Lord that's the woman I want, and then you.
And we dated for a long time, and it was because of me. I was always thinking, okay, well, maybe it's today. Maybe it's today. No, it's not today. So my thinking, okay, it's going to be a right day, not knowing it'll never be right. You have to take that leap of faith and just go and grasp at it. And I was thinking, okay, it's going to be a clear day. God's going to come down and he's going to tell me it's time for you to propose to your wife. I had the ring maybe 3 or 4 years before we got married.
What the heck?
Yeah.
What the heck? And that's a nice word. What the heck was you thinking?
That okay, every time we planned something, we would get into it or something would happen and I'm like, okay, it's not the day. Let me just put the ring back up.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
What have we learned about, what's the best thing about marriage besides the marriage bed? Oof. You get that? Clean show.
You learn your bride every day. For one. So, and what I mean by that is we learn each other. We find new avenues about each other that, okay, this is her. This is what she likes. And you feel like you fully know a person, and then you get married and feel like, you realize, I don't even know this is not it. So let me, and I'm learning new stuff about my wife every day. Like she lifts me up, and then I see things in her to where it's like, okay, she builds me up in this area. What are ways that I can build her up in that area? Just trying to find nitpicks. And
you
avenues.
Think about that on your own?
I have to.
Okay.
Because I felt like I was so self-absorbed for a long time that I didn't pour out where I should have. And now it's really, like
Who told you were self-absorbed?
A lot of people.
Really?
I went to counseling for it and then just a lot. Yeah. So.
Well, let's promote counseling on the show.
Yeah. Please. Please. So,
who told you, who gave you the freedom to go to counseling? Because I'm like, from the generation that I, like the church folks, we don't, come.
Yeah. Well, I want to say my wife, actually. She
Come on, wisdom.
She pushed me into it, and I was like, okay, she asked me to do it. We started off in marriage counseling,
Great.
And then after marriage counseling, we went to our separate ways, and she went to her counselor, and I didn't have a counselor for a while, so we found another counselor, and we were talking, and she said, "Hi, try him." So I tried him, and he's been the best. Like anger management, just different avenues to where it's like, okay, things that I didn't even know were issues. He would bring out and say, "This is what it is."
What's something gentle? What's something gentle you can help the folks with?
Something gentle. Meaning, like
what's the thing that he pulled out of you to be the mirror to show you, like, Paulston, this ain't right?
Oh, well, for instance, my wife, like we were talking about, me being so self-absorbed, I'm thinking, okay, me, but where's your wife? Like, where is your wife in that situation? It's all about you. It's all about you. This is what I'm hearing, Paulston. So how do you put your wife? Because, of course, God honors a marriage. So, we must love our brides like Christ loved the church. And he put his church before anything he did. Like, he died for us. So I had to find that person. Like, okay, this Paulston is so self-absorbed that he didn't even see the issue. Like it was him. It wasn't her. Because I'm thinking, okay, she'll catch up with me one of these days. Yeah. So yeah, I had to take that clunk on the head and realize, like,
Can't even imagine.
Yeah. So yeah.
Can't imagine it. So people are trying to tell you that, but it was the surrendering to a counselor that was able to speak truth into your life. So do you have other people that you allow to speak into your life now?
I do.
For correction.
I do. I have.
What's
my
that look
pastor.
like? Help them in, folks. Please.
So, well, being humbled a lot.
Yeah.
Because I was the person. I knew it all. I didn't need any help, not knowing that I didn't know anything. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't need help. I didn't. So me submitting to leadership, either pastoral or a godly person type leadership, to just talk to and surrender to, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you feel about that? We'll go to God in prayer, open up the word, and this is what they'll say. So
what's in the last 30 days, what's been something that's transpired in your life that is nothing but God?
Well, for once, me getting back on the music that God entrusted in me to do, because now I have this push. My grandmother passed, I want to say a month ago now.
I'm sorry to hear
and that. And before she passed, and ever since 2020, really, I've tried to get back into my music, because the last time I put out an album was 2020, the EP. But I tried to get back into my music, and all else would fail. Like we would go to the studio, I would lay some tracks down, and nothing just stuck me to where I was like, okay, I'm gonna jump back in. But after she passed away, God lit a new fire under me, and it was like, hey, it's time. It's your purpose. You already knew what your purpose was. Then I had my wife confirming it in me, like, hey, it's time to get back on the grind. So just that, in the last 30 days, I've seen God work through music tremendously, to where I've had people text me, call me, even Facebook message me and say, hey man, I'm proud of you, and I want you to know your push, your goal that you're doing is pushing me to different heights and just new eras and avenues that I didn't even think of.
Yeah.
So
Your obedience usually can be infectious to other people. And it usually is. It's been my experience as well. Usually the death of someone that I care about usually is fuel to make me realize that we're not promised tomorrow, and whatever I'm purposed to do, I better be about the Father's business.
Yes, ma'am.
That's awesome. How do we find your album?
So it's on all platforms, it's on social media. It's on all electronic outlets like what is it? Apple Music, iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. So it's all on those outlets and platforms.
So you're on the outlets, but also you do music ministry. You have a home-based ministry like the Acts Church. So tell me about that, because I got the Evite for it.
Well, yes, ma'am. So we are doing like nights of worship, and there are pretty much pop-ups. So it started out as like a living room type field deal, to where it's worship, it's testimony, it's nights of prayer, and it's just a home feel, to where it's nothing agenda type based, written or driven, but just letting the spirit flow. So
how often are you doing those?
we're doing them monthly, so once a month. Yeah.
Okay. And then how do people get involved with that?
So you'll look at paulstonhillmusic.com, and they have links through it, and then you just click on the links, and they'll have sign-up sheets for people that need prayer. If you want to attend one of the services, well, not services, but nights of worship,
community
gatherings, nights of worship, and if you want to host, you can even also click a link to host it. So yeah.
Well, how about that? I'll have to talk to my producer about that to see if we can get involved some way, somehow. Okay. What is your dream situation before 2024 is over with that you want to record with or worship with or partner with? What does that look like? What's your dream? I want to sing with, boom, say the name.
You mean like an artist, specific artist? Ooh. I would like to sing with Todd Dulaney.
Okay.
Yeah. Or either Galbert. Yeah, one of the two. Of the two. Yeah.
The Father has heard that, so that's nothing is hard for him to do. Is there any other projects you want to talk about? Oh, you know what I want to talk about? Because I thought it was so fascinating on how ministry moments can happen. We attend the same church. And how did you get invited to that church?
Oh, wow. So I was an elementary school teacher for 5 years at Harry Stone Montessori Academy. And one of my students attended Watermark South Dallas. And she was like, hey, because I would always play my songs, even though we're not supposed to. I would play my Christian songs in the morning. And we would listen to one of my favorite, I guess I call it hype tunes, and it's called Worship Smile. So we would listen to that every morning, and she sung it till, I don't know, till heaven got the news. She would sing it all the time. And her mom said, hey, my daughter sings this song all the time, and I'm asking her, who sings this song? And she was like, Mr. Hill. And she said, okay, I know Mr. Hill plays it for y'all. I know he sings it in your class, but who sings the song? And she was like, no, that's Mr. Hill's song. So she called and she said, hey, my daughter sings this song. My daughter's going to ask you something. So the next day we prepare for school. I'm walking in. We're helping the kids to class, putting their backpacks up. And she said, hey, do you mind singing at my church? My pastor lets you if you're a worship leader, he'll let you sing at the church. So would you mind singing? So her mother gave my contact information to the pastor, which is now my pastor, Pastor Marvin. Shout out. So,
Marvin Walker.
Yeah. So he was like, yeah, man, if you come by, check out. First week I was skeptical of going because we all have our, little saying about what happened in the South Dallas community.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. But what impressed me is because the Sunday that you sang, I believe that was my first time hearing you sing. Okay. And I love that you shared that story because a child invited you.
Yes.
To church. So we should not quiet our children.
Yeah.
This is what I love, that she was empowered to invite an adult to come to the church.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that, because it's going to be talked about anyway. We have had on another pastor from another church talking about church hurts and how to get involved in the community. I'm not from Dallas. You are. Tell me about the dynamic that happened. I've had Marvin on as well. What was the dynamic that happened with Watermark South Dallas?
Well, they'll tell you plenty of things, because it's so many different views on the topic or the situation. Because, for one, Watermark bought the church unknowingly to the community, for one, which was the school at the time. The ISD shut the school down with the intent on rebuilding the school and making another middle school. It never happened. So
the building sat abandoned for years. In a public auction, a parishioner got the building at a great price, phenomenal price, and then segued that, wrote it up, gave it to the church to take care of it. Take care of the building.
They took care of the building. Someone said, and this is another he say. I don't know how true this is, but someone told the community that the church was going to Watermark was going to buy the building to open up a charter school. So it was a charter school talk. Then they said, okay, they were buying it to do community outreach work type things, like situations like grocery stores and all that, which is still true to this day because that is one of their goals.
That's on their vision board.
Yeah, it's one of their goals. So, but when it came to becoming a church, nobody knew that. They thought, okay, this is, wow, this is absurd because we have so many churches. We call it the Bible Belt of South Dallas. Over there in South Dallas, it's so many different churches down there. Like, it's more churches than I feel like schools or buildings.
Right,
So so it's so many churches in South Dallas, and they were like, why are you bringing your church down here to South? Like, are you trying to take our members, or are you trying to gentrify the community? What's going on with that?
Right. So intentionally they have service at
3 o'clock. Yes.
So it's a non-compete time. If folks don't go to church, they would have already gone. So they're not trying to take members from the churches.
Yes, ma'am.
What's that? So someone being skeptical, that's what you said at first.
That was me.
To now. So now, how did you get out of that skepticism into now what do you see?
So I went back, like I said, after that first week, I was skeptical. Went back the second week, and he called me and he was like, hey, man, I want you to sing worship. So I was like, okay. I got there. Everybody was so welcoming. Like, it was, it felt genuine. It didn't feel fake, or, I didn't feel anybody had a negative agenda going on. It was just genuine love. So I got there. song. The next week, my wife came with me, and she fell in love with it. So it was like, maybe God's doing something here. And we kept going and we kept going until we eventually joined. It drew us in. So it was just the genuine love and the genuine people that were there, and the way they did community within the service. Because we're coming from a church that doesn't really know community, or especially, I want to say, Black communities. We really don't do community like that. So seeing that and the way community is done.
Describe how community happens during the service.
So you'll have a full service.
We have praise and worship.
Praise and worship.
There's a message.
and
Teaching
then
from the Bible.
And you have your burden bearing part, is where it's kind of like what the Black church will call an altar call, or, call to discipleship. So they'll have that moment. And then after that, I want to say the last 15 or 30 minutes are community time. And that's where they'll have questions about the sermon, and you can go on this, answer the questions. It's time for prayer within the community, or you can just sit right there and talk about, life situations. So things like those are that you wouldn't normally see in a Black church, because everybody is, we have it together.
They performing.
Yes, pretty much. Like I was.
And so there is intentional time for application of what was taught out of the Bible. This is the time to apply it to our lives.
Ma'am.
And or community will come around and just pray for your real on-time specific need. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why I rave about it as well.
Yeah.
I will.
Yes,
so I'm glad to hear you move from skepticism into saint.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Into the saints. That's awesome. Any other thing that you want to that's praiseworthy about where you go to church, your home meetings, or anything else that's going on that you want to promote while we got the time?
Nothing else that I can think of right now at the time.
Okay. Well, I want to give praise to your lovely bride. She's amazing and wonderful in all of the things. And so he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. You did that thing.
I said great thing.
Great.
I got in trouble.
Come on, say
that.
great thing then.
Quick little story.
Yeah.
When I was when we were getting married, our pastor at the time, he said, "Now listen, when I say who takes this bride to be there, how the prenuptials go." He said, "Say I do. Don't say anything else." And he said, "Do you take this bride?" And I said, "You better believe it." So he was like, "I told you not to say that."
Right.
But
After all this time, you was like, after all this time, I was flubbing up. Right.
Yeah.
You finally got it right. Well, I'm glad you could come today.
Oh, yeah.
You've been a delight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, this won't be the last time. I still want to do that panel with you and the other praise and worshipers. Yeah.
Okay.
And so thank you. Thanks for being obedient to pushing out the album. I know it won't be your last one. And I'm excited that you're surrendering and being submissive to what God has called you to do. Really am. So thanks for that obedience. Thanks for not hiding. Thanks for being the man of God that you are to your household.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Just keep living, family. Thank you for joining us and wrapping us with your love in the conversation today. Reach out to paulstonhillmusic.com. You can Google search it. You'll find it, and press that link button to join in on his small group worship encounters. And we'll see you next time.